Hey guys, this is Jorge from the Big Band Podcast. I'm here with my friend Arnold Beekes, a fellow generalist. Hi Arnold, how are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you, Jorge.
Thank you for being with us on the Big Band Podcast. As you know, we just getting warmed up, and I one of the things first people that I thought about inviting to have a chat with me is was you because you and I met through Twitter more than a few years ago. And what's funny is that I like to tell this story because it's an unusual thing, but basically Arnold was scanning through my tweets, and he noticed a pattern, and he immediately sent me a I remember a direct message and said, do you identify yourself with this particular description? And the description was one of a generalist, and I said, yep. And then that's how we hit it off. That's how we ended up chatting, and now we are here with we've collaborated on several things, and Arnold to me has been kind of like is a friend, but has also been a mentor to me at certain points, and I appreciated that, and I wanted to to invite him over and have a good chat about what the life of a generalist is, and basically what we are seeing as a big picture in terms of society, and why people like us are kind of seen as outsiders when we actually add a whole bunch of value to the whole thing. So let's go for it, Aaron. What do you,
Yeah,
what
yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
So what's and I know you haven't launched the book, but I've actually I think I wrote your foreword um for your book
Yeah,
about
you did.
your generalist, and so just kind of go over it, kind of like what a generalist is.
Yeah, for me, I'm using quite a simple definition. For me, as a generalist, is someone who knows a lot about a lot of different areas, either through experience or through learning or whatever. And at the same time, it's a person who has a huge level of curiosity and love for learning.
Yep. And well, number one, which is unusual, and number two, the generalist usually, well, number one, generalist number. Let me put it this way: at school, we are not taught to be generalists, and that creates a lot of challenges when, as you and I know, the world is dramatically changing right now. Um, in what form? Well, number one, knowledge is a click away. um, we are a click away, like you and I met through Twitter. We are a click away from somebody else who knows something, and we can pull them in to to help us solve a challenge. Um, and school is basically telling us to number one, we have to specialize, and to be specialized is to be kind of like an expert. Everybody wants to be an expert, but at a certain degree, expertise loses its value. So how does a generalist come in, or how can a generalist collaborate, or is there a specific point when the generalist is really valuable, or is he always valuable?
Well, I would say that it's a reminiscent of the industrial age where people are put in silos and people are supposed to be experts because you're just part of one big machine where people really like cogs in a wheel where you're supposed to do just one area and do it very good and focuses on efficiency and standardization. And so that is where experts get created. And that is still, if you look at the educational system at schools, universities, everything is still based on industrial age paradigms, which means that we have to create experts. Um, but what is now happening in the world is that what I say I call we're moving into the connection age, where you are globally connected, where technology things are driven, and like what you said, knowledge is, well, it's not only available at the click of a button, but at the same time, knowledge is changing very rapidly because how things are being solved or being addressed or how you're supposed to do things is changing it with the same speed. So I might know something today, but it might become totally obsolete in 2 days from now. So that means that Also, my knowledge or my expertise might become obsolete within just the flick of an eye, and that has a huge impact. So that is why these new times where knowledge is exponentially growing and where it's available to just about anyone, it means that the expert approach has where you're supposed to be an expert from when you start working until you retire. I think that has become totally useless at one point and obsolete at the other.
Hmm. How can well, and for those of you listening who don't get the word expert or generalist, the other way of saying it is basically T-shaped people. So that's been,
Well, yeah, even T-shaped is, to me, it's rather limited
yeah,
because it says that people just have one or two expertise or know a little bit about communication. Whatever, there are a lot of discussion about it, but I think it's too limited because even look at yourself, Jorge. I think there might be 35 different areas where you got quite some expertise. So it is. I think it's too limited, that T-shaped. And again, a generalist, more and more people are starting to understand. Well, you and I think we go back 5, 6 years, maybe even longer. Well, when we started using that word, it is, well, people look like we came from Mars.
yeah.
But now I'm starting to use the word, and people, well, very, very quickly grasp it. And by the definition, I say a generalist is a guy who knows a lot about a lot. And that immediately clicks with people. So more and more people are starting to understand that.
Yeah, and well, now, how does a um, because there's various organizations or businesses, well-known businesses like Google, who deliberately hire generalists. Um, it's not a big secret, but it's not entirely obvious. Um, the way I look at that is because is in a way that, and they say it is basically, we want smart people. um, Now you and I both know that there are smart people, but there's also the other component of drive and the you know the leadership and all that stuff. So are all generalists alike? If not, in how, in what ways?
No, absolutely not. Like we co-founded the Society of Creative Journalists, and if I read, well, irregularly, some of the profiles of the folks is really really impressive, but it is one thing to know a lot about a lot of areas, but at the other time is how are you able to communicate, how you're able to collaborate, how you able to work with experts, how you work with people who don't learn so fast as you do, because that is also a reality, that is a fact. So the impact which you have as a generalist is not just, well, I know a lot. Well, that is useless. It's useless if you can't communicate. It's useless if you have no empathy. It's useless if you cannot express yourself in such a way that the average person understands you.
Mm-hmm. How can
Yes, so I'm inclined to say that all these life skills or communication skills or whatever name you give it to it are really really much more crucial than yeah, it's combined with those skills combined with having expertise in a lot of areas that is going to make the difference. Not just knowing, well, I'm just sitting all day in my room studying and whatever, and that's what I love to do. That's fine, but most of these guys are not very capable of effective communication.
or even effective action?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that is this. I know people who got three master's degree and an MBA and something else, and they just love studying and whatever. Yeah, but it's what do you do with it?
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
not.
and for me, it's not relevant what certificate or diploma or master's degree or bachelor's. I don't care because again, I know so many people who know a lot and don't have these papers. It's not about the papers. It's about how you, well, how you connect the dots and how you do something with it and how you help society with it. Just like you said in the beginning, Jorge, it's about all the major challenges in society are they're kind of stuck. they're trying to find solutions, some of them for 20, 30 years, or even since the financial crisis 2008, which is already 7, 8 years ago. And they're not finding any solutions. So these experts and all these folks are still discussing and discussing and discussing. But well, I think the only guys who fare well are the hotel business and the travel business. But in the end, it doesn't create any solutions, because they have this very narrow focus, and because everything's connected and everything's tied to each other, they don't know what the impact on other areas is, and that's why it's not working. So I think all of these major problems in society, or in business, whatever, require generalists. Not only generalists. Of course, you still need experts in these areas, but I don't want an expert who says, well, I'm doing something in the way I was doing it 20 years ago, because again, many areas, whether it's engineering or medicine, or it doesn't matter. There's so many improvements, there's so many new things happening in combination with technology. If you're not aware of that, then you're not an expert in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think there's two. Well, there are two challenges or various challenges, but two of them are number one. Um, it starts at you know home, then school, and then a job or your passion thing. Um, in schools, for example, um, going back to the beginning, basically it's all about giving out a diploma. That's basic proposition of a school, basically. Give out a diploma that supposedly guarantees you a job, and you and I know that's bullshit. Uh, that's bullshit. And most of the stuff that's created out there, it's does not come embedded with a diploma. It comes out embedded with curiosity and will and passion and all these other things, intangible stuff. At school, how can because it's very rare that we hear anything like this talked about at schools. There's basically still you're gonna be an engineer. That's what you're gonna be. I mean, basically they're already defining you. I remember when I went to school, I used to jump from one class to another that had nothing to do with my career path. I mean, it was ridiculous, but that was me. I was bored.
Yeah.
I was bored. I wanted to see more. So, um, but that's rare. I think that's, and I think for you and me and generalists, that's kind of like a modus, a standard way of operating. We'll jump from one thing to another, and to us it's not chaotic, it's normal. Whereas in daily life it's like that's not a routine, that's you being not knowing what you want. So what do you think about in terms of a generalist valuing from the beginning? How does a generalist be valued from the beginning? How do we cultivate that in a way that becomes normal, and it's embedded in, because you and I know that people already have it in them. We just got to bring it out. I mean, we're all humans. But
Yeah, well, I think it's one of the core competencies of any human being is that you have curiosity, you have creativity, you have love for learning, and all these things in the schooling system are, and I tell you, intentionally being suppressed. So after you're 6, 7 years old, it's intentionally being put out of the system, because that's not what they want in the assembly line in the factory. They don't want you to ask critical questions. They don't want you to be creative and say, hey, we're doing it in this way, maybe we can do it in another way, which is much more smarter. They don't want that. Yeah, they just want you to shut up and do what you're told. So that means, and again, I read a book from Peter Gray, and it's called Free to Learn. And in the book, he has done research around it, that guys like Henry Ford and whatever, he was like, oh, I don't want my assembly workers to be creative, because then they screw up my assembly line, and at the same time, if they want to be creative, they don't like the job we're doing. So they built into the system that when you're 6, 7 years old, there's no creativity, there's no critical questioning, there's no more love for learning. And so that's being pushed out of the system. While I think it's just natural to any human being. Look at any child. Look at any child. It's curious. It loves to learn. It loves to create. So Yeah, and then there have been recent studies like where people say, well, I'm just not creative, whatever. Every human being is creative. It's just been suppressed. So the moment you let free or whatever, it will happen. So in my thing, what needs to happen is a complete flipping of the whole education system. And by flipping, I mean is that you put it upside down. Is that I think at schools you need to teach life skills, and those life skills are primary, and the knowledge is something on the side which is much more easier to learn because you get so many things through technology on one end, and at the same time you need to learn it very quickly because knowledge deepens, changes, whatever so fast that even if I learned something about a specific area 5 years ago, it might be totally obsolete by now. So I'm really in favor of totally putting the system upside down, and that's actually what I'm doing with the new ABC. Is we're totally disrupting the educational system because we focus on life skills, and we think those life skills are much more critical rather than focusing on some knowledge area which is fluctuating much more.
Yeah. Last week I went to a local university here where I am to pitch another joint project that we have. And one of the things that I told him was, the most valuable skills that we have, we learned in preschool. Um, and people don't remember them. They forgot when they went to preschool, when it was all just the play and value and investigation, exploration, pretty much just relentless curiosity. And I said, even though you may think that's chaotic, it's not, because that's essentially what pushes things forward. I mean, following a routine becomes, and this maybe sounded too harsh for them, but I said, listen, the robots are already here, but they were already here, millennium ago. Why? Because, or not millennium ago, that was in the industrial age. When the industrial age, I said, when the industrial age started, that's when we all became robots. Or well, I said, you guys became robots, not me. But but now robots are right here in the physical ones. But truthfully, if we really investigate it, we've been robots for quite a long time because we've been programmed to operate in a certain way. Sure, it's become, the society's become productive and all these other things, yada yada yada. But every idea has its expiration date. And one of the things that we have yet to understand is that as physical robots will come in and overtake some of the meager jobs, or these jobs, that service jobs to be more specific, um, preschool skills will come into play again. um, that means doing what humans do, which is create, think, feel, and all these other stuff, and not just follow routine to finish up a task in an 8 hour time shift. I mean, it's insane. And if we take this to the industry level, um, it becomes even more pronounced because people have the expectation that their diploma is still going to is still relevant. I just went to school and I paid so and so much money and have all this debt. Are you telling me that this no longer has value? Well, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's the cold hard truth, and no, nobody has to tell you. You should have figured that one out because the signals were already there. And obviously a job seeker is not going to know that because they've been programmed not to think about it, and that's sad
Well,
because
they will sooner or later because again, when let's take if you finish university or college, you have a huge financial debt, and at the same time you have no job. So
it's
that means that there's no chance that you're gonna pay off your debt. So that means that you're totally stuck, and that's what's happening in the world, and that is what I'm currently addressing. We're talking about 75 million young people who are unemployed. We're talking
yeah
about 260 million young people who are not in employment, nor in education, nor in training. So they kind of look like they're disappearing. They're off the radar, but they're not. They're totally frustrated. Some are still living with their parents, or maybe doing some illegal work or whatever. But it's really we're talking about millions of people on a worldwide scale who
yeah
I say have been disillusioned.
yeah
It's disillusion, and I think that is really a lot of our authorities and main people in power are to be blamed for that, because you sold them an illusion. You sold them an illusion that if you go to university and whatever, yeah, you will have a job until you're 65 years old, and we pay you some money and blah blah blah.
Yep.
That proves to be now an illusion. So that's why a lot of these young folks who I meet all over the world, that they're extremely frustrated, and I can understand it, because we screwed them.
Yeah. No, it's true. And it's, I mean, and it's still happening. uh,
It is continuously happening, because again, why are people paying, what is it, $75,000 a year to go to Harvard? Well, a lot of this stuff is for free on MOOCs or whatever, and again, a lot of that knowledge is a 60-year-old professor who tells something which he learned himself 40 years ago. So you're like, why should I learn that?
yeah.
And there's one thing that I'd like to add, Jorge. It's like people think about the robotization and whatever. It's like that. It's all when you mentioned the service jobs and all these things. I totally agree, but it's moving very very rapidly. You know, with artificial intelligence and machine learning and all these things into white collar jobs as well. I use always this example. A friend of mine, he had prostate cancer, and he had to decide where he's going to do the operation. And his daughter and his son-in-law, they were both doctors. He had a lot of discussion, like, where should they do the operation? And he ended up to do the operation in a certain hospital where the robot would do the operation. And the reason why was, well, simple, a robot doesn't make mistakes. A robot doesn't have, because if you have a surgeon, and who has last night a fight with his wife, or had a party with a friend that was a little bit drunk, and he's got to operate you the next day, well, you're not too happy for your prostate, yeah. But that's why he said, well, that's why I'm taking the robot version, because that is much safer to me. So I say even these high status blue collar job or white collar job, like I'm a surgeon, which means I'm guaranteed to earn hundreds of thousands of dollars each year, and I will have a high status thing. You'll lose your job, because again, a robot doesn't make any mistakes, and it can work 7/24. So hey, it's impacting white collar jobs as even faster than blue collar jobs.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Even, talking about just artificial intelligence, I mean, algorithms are everywhere. People don't understand that. They just think, I mean, it's insane. Even not even from a technological point is even minor stuff like travel. I mean, people don't really know that planes fly themselves these days, or have been happening for almost 30 years. I mean, you know what I mean? So a pilot is basically just being paid to babysit a plane. And how many of those are going to be existing later on? I mean, basically people are just going to be babysitters, to begin with. And maybe you and I are not going to live it long enough to see this, but then eventually, maybe even not even babysit them, robots will be babysitting us. But if we let them.
Well, there are now even already that they have these robots where they show them emotions, and they can see from your facial expressions what your emotions are. So they know your emotion better, maybe even than you know yourself, because most of us have learned to suppress our emotions. So a robot understands you better than any other human being. So because they use that latest technology. So, and bring this circle to what you said about the preschool. It is indeed like the curiosity, the learning, the creativity, the discovery, the exploring, the dealing with uncertainty, going into loving the unknown, and whatever. Those are the really things where we still, as human beings, are differentiating. If we really fully use those capacities. But again, that means that the schooling system has to change. That means that universities have to change or even disappear. And it means that we have to allow ourselves and learn and put in the effort to resurface those qualities which have been suppressed for so long.
Yes. And, you and I both have collaborated in a way that's unusual to most people. Basically, we went after a a couple of challenges. Number one, the future of banking and the future for youth. And the way we did it was basically we had no well, the first one was last year in the banking one, and the first thing we said was if we're gonna change banking, we're not gonna bring bankers in. So
Yeah.
we had no bankers. We actually had like an actual actor in there. Uh, we had people from all sorts of different domains, contributing ideas to a different future of banking. Now, this type of work, obviously, to you and I is normal, the way to do that. But inside, not even organizations, even anything, people don't do that. How can we embed that type of mindset in inside a organization?
Well, I truly believe that the time is becoming more receptive to this kind of working because all the old methods, all the proven methods, problem solving methods, whatever, all the consultancies, all the traditional things have proven that they're currently not working. So that means that more and more organizations are starting to open up to say, maybe we should do it a little bit different because all of the other stuff is not working. And that is what more and more, well, small and large companies I think are starting. It's just a starting. They're starting to realize that that we're not making any progress on any of these areas. So that we need a new approach. And it's like at the same time, what is helping is that there is more and more research. There's more and more evidence. Like for instance, people know that diversity is really crucial for creativity, and that you need to bring in different people from different background, different gender, different race, different cultures, because otherwise they're going to be creativity of a very low level. So people are starting to understand that, and again, that's been supported by all of this information which is available through social media, that people are like, oh wow, that is really, really becoming more available. And I can even, I don't know how about you personally, Roger, but I can understand that, well, I've been a generalist most of my life, and most of my life I felt like an outcast. But now when I mention it, it's people become interested, and people are like, oh, wow, you can add a lot of value. I had just 2 weeks ago, we had with the company a meeting, and next day they offered me to become a partner and use their office for a few days in a week, just because they said that guy has a very interesting set of capabilities. So yeah, it is more and more that people are now seeing that, oh wow, this is something different, and this is something we might be able to use. So I think there's a shift happening from these guys are crazy towards like maybe they can help us in areas where we are stuck.
Yeah, and that takes me to the other point, which is the in a sense kind of like the future of work. Um, without putting in the robots and artificial intelligence and all this other stuff, that is part of it. But there's also the human component, which is basically uh, people collaborating with people who are not like them, like you and me. We met through Twitter. I mean, that should be like a normal narrative at this point, but it's still unusual. Oh, how do you guys met? Through Twitter. It's still unusual. I mean, you know what I mean? And oh, I got a buddy in New Zealand. Oh, really? How do you meet? Twitter.
Yeah,
What?
yeah.
Really? That's it? You know what I mean? It's still unusual to most people, but really, that's for you and me. That's kind of normal. And for me, it's something that I really want to see out there to be more normal. To the point where we see people of all ages. Not just you and I. I mean, because you are older than I am, but doesn't matter. I mean, that's not an issue. I mean, it never was, and it won't be. But I mean, to some people, it's like it would have been like you were saying. You're kind of like a threat or something. And I mean, and I know that for me. I mean, some people see me as a threat to them. Like, oh my God, no, I can't collaborate with this guy because he's gonna take over everything or whatever. When it should be the opposite. It should be like, oh my God, we found an asset in Holland that's not being used in Arnold. My God, what why is nobody paying attention to him? Well, let's bring it over, right? Let's put ourselves on a call, on a Skype or a Google Hangout or a Blab or whatever, and let's go after something. You know what I mean? That should be normal. And
Yeah,
I think is the future of work.
it is becoming more normal, but still, it is again the education system, the university system, but also how companies are organized. It's still in the old system where things are people are compartmentalized and people are put in boxes and labels and descriptions and where the default thing is still we need to meet face to face, whereas I think it's total bullshit because it's not necessary. It's like you and I, we're friends and we're collaborating and we never met. I'm working with another friend, Rotan, on many different projects for the last few years, and I never met him. And when people see how we collaborate, because we work in other groups, whatever, they're like, and then we mention like, well, by the way, we never met. They don't believe us.
Yeah.
They don't believe it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you and I communicate and whatever, they think we live next door to each other, whatever. Yeah? So, but again, it is that old shift of things are location dependent, and you have to have face to face and need all these things. But again, if you still stick to that, you're gonna lose the game because there are many folks who do understand that you can collaborate remotely and globally with all kinds of folks all over the world, and in that way you can work much faster than anyone else. So but it's again, it's just people need to learn to let go of that old mindset, and well, as you know and I know, that's the most difficult thing. It's a change in culture, a change in mindset, and again, it's not only old people but it's also young people. Yeah, it's like, oh, we need to meet face to face. No, you don't need. Yeah, so it is just also, well, let technology work for you, and rather than see it as just a nuisance. No, it just, well, I love it to have friends like yourself all over the world and people with different backgrounds, whatever, which I would not have met in my small hometown in Amersfoort, whatever. That's also one of the reasons why I left. But if you it's truly a matter of expanding your world.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. So am I a global citizen, or am I just like a local peasant, and I'm only interested in my small world? No, I think it's super that these things and that this technology enables that to be connected with well, not only like-minded people but smart people or whatever all over the world, and that you can work together and you can do it seamlessly.
Absolutely.
And that is the way it is, and that is why people are always like, yeah, why are the Facebooks and the Googles of the world and the IDOs, why are they successful? Well, that's exactly how they work. Yeah, they bring in all these folks. Yeah, you mentioned Google. I would like to mention IDO. Yeah, they bring in intentionally generalists. They bring in people from totally different professions and educations, whatever. They do that intentionally because they know then the creativity starts to, yeah, when you rub against each other or whatever, that's when things start to change. Yeah, if you put six whatever traditional marketing guys together, nothing happens. Yeah, but put a biologist and a doctor and a nurse together and a dog trainer, whatever, then something start to happen.
Yeah, it's true. It's true, and you know, it's like I was saying, earlier, it's not unusual in companies that actually produce interesting stuff. It's kind of a mode operandi. But when in my case, when people or executives ask me, well, how do we produce innovation in here? Number one is that's the wrong question. Because the capability to do it is already there. I mean, there's a bunch of humans in there, but the what you are doing to suppress all that, like you were saying, the word suppress is what's standing in the way. So it's really about unlocking what's already there. It's not about bringing in more pieces or doing these activities that, oh, let's put some posters up there, let's put some big ass words of encouragement and let's put some some inspirational words on the in the walls where we walk on. I mean, no. It's really about unlocking what people already have in there, and that's really looking within, not outside. It's looking within, and then what are we doing to suppress all that, and then eliminating all that stuff, and then you start seeing the good stuff come out. Then you go outside and you look outside how to amplify that more. But that rule really does not apply all the time. It's like you're crazy. I mean, no. We've been doing this way all the time. Like, yeah, well, that's why. That's why you're
Yeah,
asking
well,
me.
continue doing it,
That's why
and
you're
maybe
asking
we'll
me.
be broke in a few years. But I can totally relate to that. But it's actually we were talking about robots, but I think we have since the industrial age, which is already more than 100 years ago, we have been robotizing humans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so which because they're not supposed to have any creativity, not supposed to have any curiosity, and they're not supposed to have any emotions. Because again, so you're not supposed to be angry, you're not supposed to cry, you're not supposed to be enthusiastic or jumping on your chair, whatever. So it's again we have totally robotized human beings, and we even I always say to people, look at the main measurement. What's the main metric in business is ROI. So ROI is put on everything, on human beings, on processes, whatever. But then ROI is something which started like, hey, I bought a machine, yeah, and it cost me a lot of money. So what will it bring to me, the usage of that machine? But now it becomes the ROI of hiring an extra person, or the ROI of this or that, which means that again we have we have put everything into a mechanic place, and we totally disrupted the human aspect. And now we're starting to, robots are taking over. Hey, but we are already robots ourselves.
We are robots.
So what needs to change is the culture, and what I'm realizing now while I'm traveling all over the world is that culture had such a big impact on even very brilliant folks. Let me give you an example. With the new ABC, we were working one of our students, a young, very bright student from Vietnam, and we're working on creating some new projects together. And every time she asks, we need to build a plan, we need to build a plan. And then we say, no, we're not going to create a plan. Because by the time the plan is finished, everything what we did has already changed, circumstances has changed, competition has changed, market, everything has changed. So we're not going to build a plan. We're just going to make a kind of an MVP as fast as possible, prototype, test it, and do it. Yeah? But every time, and then I have to tell her, and then she's like, oh, so we're not going to do a plan? No, we're not going to do a plan. And then later on, then something else happens. Okay, yeah, but I still need the plan and the next steps. I said, yeah, but you're not going to get the plan. So now she's at the time that she starts to understand, well, I can ask for a plan, but I'll never get a plan. So I better go along with these guys. But it is so, that is how people are brainwashed. Yeah? People are brainwashed in the old way of doing things. Even young folks, again, I'm talking here, this lady's 22 years old. So it is we brainwash people, we robotize people, and the consequence is that they're totally not capable of working in this volatile, crazy, rapidly changing world.
It's true, and I relate to the plan also. You do. Number one, you got to figure it out. So, um, not everything is set in stone, and I mean, unless you're solving a known problem, and expertise will hit the drill. It will hit the spot, but that's on a very short horizon. But for things that are constantly in the unknown, I mean, it just goes out the window. You basically have to figure it as you go, and it's a process of experimentation, of trying, eliminating, putting in. I mean, it's a constant flow of ups and downs and whatnot, and that it really is the plan.
Yeah,
Figure
and
it out.
constantly adapting to changing circumstances and being very flexible and like, oh, this is working, okay, fine, then we continue. This is not working, let's change it, let's pivot, let's do this. Yeah, so you're continuously like, okay, yeah, more in real collaboration, also not with other also with other people, but also you're kind of collaborating with circumstances, and every time it's like, hey, this need, oh, what does it mean to me? Do I need, oh, I need to change, I need to adapt, yeah, and that is really really necessary, because again, I moved from Vietnam to Hungary to Budapest, but when I made the decision, well, it was a decision of a few hours actually. There was nothing like a refugee crisis. I made that decision by the end of June. And I was like, okay, I go to Budapest. And when I'm 1 month here, there appears to be like Budapest is the center of the refugee crisis. But before that, there was nothing. Yeah? And now it's like, oh, how do we deal with that and whatever. And every time when I talk with people, either from my hometown or whatever, Arnold, are you careful? What is the situation with the refugees? Yeah? Whatever, with refugees are already gone by long, but they think I'm in a very dangerous position or whatever. So, but again, nobody, but I tell you, nobody could have predicted what happened with the refugees and in Hungary or in Middle Europe and everything. But it is just, that is just an example of how old the old way of thinking, where we try to not to address the cause of a problem, but we really are only addressing the consequences. Like, oh shit, we got a lot of people. How do we care for a lot of these people? And oh, each country got to take a couple of these folks and whatever. And oh well, they're too much. So we got to close the borders. That is still. It means you're only dealing with the consequences.
Yeah.
You're not addressing the cause of the problem. Why are these people fleeing? Why are these people moving away? What's causing that?
I know.
Nobody asking that question. And it's like, maybe we should address that, because it's not normal that you want to leave all your belongings, your family behind, and you just start walking. And so, yeah, why are people doing that? These people are desperate. So, and again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are millions of them. So, yeah, and not only in the Middle East and Europe, but also in Africa, whatever. There are millions of them. So why are these people doing that? Yeah. What is the cause? That is why you need generalists. That's why you need people who connect the dots, who see the big picture and understand, like, this is causing it, and let's address that. Only like, oh, it's a bit shitty that we got too many foreigners in my country.
That's true. Anything else you want to talk about?
Well, what I really would like our people to encourage is that you need to make the shift from, like you said, when you were a young kid, you like to explore, you like to learn. And, well, children always ask the question, why is this, why is that, why is this? Because they want to learn, they want to explore, they're curious. And again, we already said at 6, 7, it's again, and then you start learning stuff which you don't like, most of the stuff, yeah, and which you're not interested in. And what I think is really, really crucial for people is that they recollect that love for learning. It's also an innate quality. I think each person loves to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it can be anything, just about flowers or about a new language or other cultures or how a certain technology works. It doesn't matter. Yeah, I think each person has that love for learning inside of him or herself, but it's really, really crucial again that we adapt to that self, because to me the main thing, if you want to be successful in this world of robotization and more pressure on cost cutting and everything, whatever, the only way in which you differentiate yourself is how quickly can you adapt, how quickly can you learn. Yeah? That is why you and I, well, we don't even blink with our eyes if people ask us something which we've done never before and we have no clue about. We say yes, we say it's fine, because we know we can learn. We know we can pick it up by just asking some questions and just digging into it, and then we only need a short amount of time to really understand how it works. Yeah? But what I really would like to see is that more and more people adapt that learning attitude, because it's really that love for learning. Because when I was at a certain point at middle school or high school, whatever, my love for learning changed into what I call should learning. I must learn this, I must learn that. Yeah, and I had to form, because otherwise my father became angry. So, but There was no love. It was I just learned because because somebody else told me that I had to learn. Yeah? But learning is so much more fun. Yeah, and now it's totally back again. It's much more fun. It's much more exciting. Yeah, and that's well, I think you can relate to that. People want to be with us because of our energy, because of our enthusiasm, because of our excitement. People just want to be in the same room. I see it here in Budapest all the time. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They just want to have lunch with me, coffee with me, sit with me because of the energy. But I'm just doing things that I love, and I try to contribute in society. But most people are, well, they're kind of brain dead. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I really encourage people to pick up on that love for learning and not just like, oh, I need to learn this because it's good for my job or whatever. No, just pick an area which you're interested in, whatever. And I don't care whether it's about sunflowers or it's about horse riding, whatever. Just start to feel that energy again. Start to feel because most people, I think, they're well, you have a TV series called The Walking Dead. Yeah, people are
The Walking Dead. They're the Walking
yeah.
Dead.
Yeah, it is like there's and then that is why everywhere, yeah, mental health is now, according to WHO, the number one cause of health issues in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why depression is yeah, I think depression is already number 2 or 3 on that list. That's why suicide among young people all over the world is increasing very, very rapidly because there's no excitement, there's no enthusiasm, there's no love, and that is what is needed in these times.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. I mean, I've never used the Walking Dead metaphor, but I've said that there is a lack of soul, lack of spirit.
Yeah,
Um, so I mean, lack of a spirit for learning and for making contributions and all this stuff, and there's more of a solve for consumption, mindless consumption, for stuff that people don't really need. Why? Because other people do it, but it's ridiculous. Where if you really learn, you and I, we'd be understanding. You know, there's much more important things than just thinking what I'm gonna buy next week, because it
yeah, but
appeared on
again,
TV.
that proves to what you mentioned before is that people are looking for things outside of themselves to become happy,
Yeah,
or yeah, and that is what the consumer society and the advertising industry is pushing as like you buy my stuff and then you will be happy, but well, everybody knows that it's short-lived because 2 weeks after you bought your new shoes, you're not happy anymore. So they force you
yeah,
to buy again new shoes or a new dress or a new trouser, whatever, or new car or a new wife or whatever. So but again, it's an illusion. It's
yeah,
an illusion. But because we have become as human beings robotized, we become those robots. They say buy, okay, we start to buy. Yeah, look at every government in all the countries in the world. What do they say? Oh, we need growth. We need to grow. We need to grow. Yeah, but read, we need to get our citizens to buy more because that means growth to them. Well, we all know that from an Earth point of view, that's totally unsustainable. And at the same time, why are these mental health figures so increasing so rapidly? Because it's an empty promise. It's an illusion,
yeah,
and it's only making very few shareholders happy that people start to keep on buying things more. Yeah, so it is more time that I like what you said. Well, people need soul. Well, people are souls, but we need to uncover our soul and really understand that that is the only way we are really differentiating from robots. If we don't have our feelings, our emotions, our common sense, our intellect, if we don't use it, yeah, yes, then a robot is much better than you and I.
that's awesome. I think that's about it for us then. I think that the way you put it at the end is pretty much rounds it to a good place. Um, well, thank you so much, Arnold, for being, to talking to with me on the Big Band podcast. How can people find you?
Well, they can find me easily on Twitter, like you and I met. It's called @ArnoldBeekes, yeah, and my last name is spelled Beekes. So that's where people can find me on Twitter, and that's the easiest way to connect.
Awesome. I will, I'll put your links on below in the text and whatnot so people can find you. But thanks again, Arnold, for being on the show, and let's keep chatting.
Yeah, thank you, and I love being part of it.
Thank you so much.